feast. PA in charge.
Tanner Morgan, former quarterback for the Golden Gophers, spent a little time with the Vikings and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's at Buffalo Wild Wings Champlin for a segment to discuss the National Football League and some passing stuff that I uncovered last night when I was putting together some stuff for the game calling depth chart. I just started looking around for Vikings Texans, started peeking around at quarterbacks and stuff, and then I was like, wow. I mean, you got and Paul Charchi, and from an overarching standpoint, will know what I'm talking about because of the fantasy world. He's looking at all these box scores and everything, and you got a lot of quarterbacks throwing in the 170s, 180s. So let's just start it here. All right, so Aaron Rodgers has not thrown for 300 yards or more 30 consecutive games. Okay, so that's a big number. So that kind of caught my eye. And then I started looking around. So consider this. And the point being here is pass defenses or have defensive coordinators and coaching staffs caught up to a certain extent with the elaborate, exotic nature of passing games. Because the players I'm going to mention here, Brock Purdy's in his third year, but everybody's pretty much a veteran, okay? Specifically Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. All right, so you have Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, and Brock Purdy. Okay, so just consider those four. Through two games, those four, Stafford, Purdy, Goff, and Lawrence, 275 attempts, 4 combined touchdowns. Okay, they have 1 each. Now, so it starts there. With them. Now, they combined for 106 touchdowns last season. They each have 1. All right, so now I know we've had some injuries with the Rams, but we haven't with the Lions, and you haven't with Trevor Lawrence and his group, so it all evens itself out. But, why are you noticing the same thing I am? Is teams, the passing games, are off to league-wide slow starts.
Yeah, it's important to realize that football is a cyclical game, okay? So let's just talk about college football and the zone read offense. Zone read is basically triple option. It's getting back to that. Now let's take it back to the NFL now. Okay, years before when you had guys throwing for 350 a game, 350 at a clip, you were throwing 40 attempts. I mean, one, it's hard to be sustainable in that world, but what are defenses going to do? They're going to adjust to be able to take that away. So you're going to find coverages where you're getting a lot, 3 deep, or you get disguised if it's single high, the corners are going to go up, the middle safety is going to be a robber, deep coverages, right, which can lead into the Mel Kiper conversation.
Yeah.
Here's the reality, though. If you're an offensive coach, you have to be able to run the ball if that's how they change their defense. It all comes down to what is the defense giving you that you can take advantage of. Right now, what defenses are showing, right, is you're paying these quarterbacks a lot of money. You're paying the receivers a lot of money. Well, running backs have never been more important now than they were in the past 3 years.
Right.
You have got to be able to run the football. If you can run the football at a high clip, you got a good chance to win the football game. So right now, what's open from an offensive perspective? The run game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to run the ball.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
Well, okay. Well, now I know Jahmyr Gibbs missed week 1, right?
No, he played.
Oh, he played. Okay.
Yep.
So he's played both games.
Yep.
All right. So you got Montgomery and Gibbs, which was a 1-1A for the Lions. That was fantastic last year. Mm-hmm. And my assertion or assumption is going to be that it's up to speed this year behind that nice offensive line. Jared Goff leads the NFL with 83 attempts, and he has 1 touchdown. So that we're only 2 into it, but that it's a developing situation with him. Now Stafford's down Kupp and Nakua, but Lawrence and Purdy was down McCaffrey, okay, but they still clearly can run with Mason.
Right.
And they had Debo, Kittle, Ayuk's trying to get himself up to speed. Jawan Jennings can be sneaky. There's something happening right now. There's something happening that I'm really curious to see if quarterbacks start busting out, completing 65 to 70% for 320, 3 and 4 against 0 or 1 picks, because it just ain't happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a defensive perspective, right, if as the game continues to go in the season, you pick up on the trends that are the current year. So what's the trend of the year right now, right? You can look at the Shanahan system and all that. we were going to see a million motions before. It's really just a man zone indicator to change it up. But if you realize that, okay, a lot of teams are running a specific run game, you're going to try to find a way to take that away.
Yeah.
And it's all about, like, who has the pen last, offensive or defensive coaches.
I love that.
And right now it seems like the defensive coaches have the pen last. But offensively, if the best chance to be successful is to run the ball, you got to run the ball, and you don't care about how many attempts you have at the end of the day.
Tanner Morgan, 9 to noon, Buffalo Wild Wings Champlin.
Tanner, Paul just hit on something that you're uniquely qualified to talk about. Puka Nacua is out. Cooper Kupp is out. Matthew Stafford is going to be throwing to
Tyler Johnson.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Minnesota native.
Yeah. Tell me Tell me about your time with Tyler Johnson and the fact that the NFL career has not gone like we thought it has, but here he is back with an opportunity to sort of retell and change the storyline of his career right now.
Yeah. I mean, started off with a Super Bowl ring, right? His rookie year with the
Tampa.
one and only Tom Brady. Right? Got to play with Antoine Winfield Jr. They got drafted in the same year. And then some things happened, got cut and whatnot. But what Tyler's so great at is he can literally make each route look the same with a different break point. So what do I mean by that is, to the DB, it looks like he's running the same route and changes it up at the very end. Because he's not very physically gifted like some of the guys that are getting paid a lot of money in the NFL. But his route running is very unique to his skill set. And he's able to make the traffic catches, the catches that sometimes a lot of guys can't make on Sundays or Saturdays. That's what he can do at a high clip, and he's very successful at that. But Tyler's a worker. He's a quiet guy. But his route running puts him at the top of it. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why, he made the 53 and is going to be able to get a lot of balls coming up this year now.
Yeah, and Sean McVay finds ways to script open his receivers. And he's done it his entire career, even going back to Washington, and he's going to put Tyler Johnson in spots to make plays that he has not been in the past. And Tyler's just got to deliver the goods now. And I'd like to think, whatever he is, 4 or 5 years into the NFL, that he's now ready to do it.
Yeah. Well, with Tyler quickly, I would imagine he's like one of the 3 most accomplished receivers in the history of Golden Gophers football, with Ron Johnson and Eric Decker. And I would imagine he was drafted where he was drafted because he's not super fast. He's not a blazer.
Right.
Blake Barrett's, assuming he's still his agent, but they made a decision, IFA, and I love Blake, ain't nobody going after anybody here, but made a decision he's not running at the combine. All right, well, I think a majority of people, when they hear that and or see that, that's because, you think your guy's slow. And therefore, if he's going to get taken in the 5th round or 3rd, 4th, or 5th, if he runs, it might be 6th, 7th, or undrafted, despite all these numbers for the maroon and gold. Well, so you say his route running is impeccable, which I'm absolutely 10 of 10 believing you. Like Marcus Colston from Hofstra, who played for the Saints, wasn't that fast. Route running elite. Amon-Ra St. Brown was drafted where he was because he's not super fast, but he's tough as nails. So, like for Tyler, if you're that good of a route runner, I just wonder why it took a little longer to get going than some others.
Yeah, I think one quick point, too, is he was going to run at his pro day, but 2020 COVID happened, so he didn't have the chance to run.
Yeah, convenient excuse, man.
Hey, I'm just saying.
You can run with a mask.
Did it work out in his favor? Absolutely. But, COVID happened.
Yeah.
The thing with Tyler is, he developed a lot more. If you looked at, just his body of work now and what he looks like as an athlete, 5 years into the league compared to when he came out, it's a whole lot different. He's really grinded in the offseason to change his body and become a more physical receiver, because he doesn't have that breakaway speed, but to make the possession catches and to get open. I think he's done a great job of that, of continuing to increase his athletic performance, because he's always been a really smart guy, great route runner, but you have to continue to get better in that end, like a Keenan Allen. Like St. Brown, which PA brought up, and that's what he's done a really great job at. And he's learned in phenomenal systems. Yeah. Right? Learned under Tom Brady. Now he's with the Rams under Matthew Stafford and McVay, which is the system that everybody wants to run. And what do they value? Smart football players who can get open and understand space. That's Tyler Johnson, and it is the perfect fit for him.
Well, Cooper Kupp's not super fast either. He's fast, but he'll kill you in the run blocking game, especially if you're not paying attention. And he's smart.
Yeah, and neither is Puka.
Wow, great point.
And
you're right.
What have they done with both of those guys?
Puka got taken in like the 5th round or something.
Yep.
Wow, that's a great point right here.
Not only did you have we were talking about great Gopher duos, and we mentioned Maroney and Barber is one of the great two-headed attacks. The best two-headed attack probably history of Gophers.
Madison and Wanwu.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. 2019, you had Tyler Johnson, Rashad Bateman.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a magic season.
Good days.
Yeah, those are good days. Tell me what it was like to be, drop back to pass and you had those two guys on the field.
Yeah, it was
Sweet.
great. And Rashad obviously started really early on in his career, but to see how he blossomed from 18 to 19 was phenomenal. But when you have both of those guys who I think they got essentially 70% of our production offensively in the pass game, they were first team All Big Ten, but it allows you to do so many different things offensively. And for me, it was like, okay, yeah, there's 13, there's 6. Whichever the way the safety favors by an inch, I'll just go to the other guy because I trust them both that much.
Wow.
So it was really fun for me.
I bet it was. Was that 2019 year pretty magic? Was the Outback Bowl win over Auburn the high water mark for you as a Gopher?
Penn State.
Yeah, I don't think it really was. I think honestly, one of the high water marks for me was in 2021 when we beat Wisconsin. We weren't that great.
Yeah,
right, we won 9 games. We weren't supposed to beat them, but they knocked us out in 2019 and going to the Rose Bowl, and then we took their chance to go to the Rose Bowl and play in the Big Ten Championship. But for me, it was kind of also like hey, this year was really hard, but yeah, we're still the team that can win the Axe here at the end of the year, and it matters that much. So that was personally, probably my top moment.
Oh yeah, let me land the plane on pass defenses getting good against. All right, 3-2. Pass defenses getting really good, clever, and not intimidated by really good passing offenses in a pass-first league. The kids, the rookies, all right? So we got Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Bo Nix all playing, all right? Now, they've thrown it 196 times. 0 touchdowns. That's a National Football League record for rookies and attempts with no touchdowns. And it's going to extend unless somebody hits on their first pass this weekend. Caleb, so the point being here is just you spent some time with the Vikings and with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're running through Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, all those quarterbacks you met last year. And then here, Cousins goes down. You got Dobbs and just the whole thing. All right, so Caleb Williams, super talented, no doubt. His yards per attempt is 4. All right, I mean, that's ridiculous.
His net yards, 3.
Really?
Lowest of any quarterback to start, not just rookies, any quarterback to start a 2 games into a season in a decade.
Yeah, see, I need to give him 3 to 5, before I just start getting loud about things like that. But his yards per attempt is a little baby 4, which is unbelievable. He's hitting on 56% of his passes. He's been sacked 9 times, most in the NFL. And yes, some of that is on him for holding the ball too long because defenses are confusing him. Then you get to Bo Nix, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. His yards per attempt is 5. Yeah. His completion percentage is 59. Daniels has looked the best of the 3. 75% completions, but he throws the ball about 2 feet and relies on yards after catch. But just how difficult can you imagine it is? No matter if you're the first overall pick in the draft, wherever you get taken, to jump into that thing with those lights and these men on the other side with like Brian Flores diabolically scheming against you. I mean, that's just tough, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. And it's the difference between the preseason and the regular season. Preseason, you're seeing very base defensive concepts. Stuff that you've seen in training camp, that you've probably seen in college. Quarters 2, 1, 3, a couple blitzes. So it's very easy to play your base game and just go out there and complete balls and run the show, kind of get that feeling. You get into week 1, it's a completely different game. You're seeing everything thrown at you, and they know you're a rookie, and they're going to do it to confuse you. Yeah. So, we're 2 games into the season. Let's give them some time. They're going to figure it out. And obviously, you want to, I think about the Hard Knocks offseason with the New York Giants. What did they say? Draft a Stroud. CJ Stroud didn't have those issues. Yeah, he's an alien. He's different. Right? He's different. So let's not compare these guys to CJ Stroud. Let's give them some time. And, at the end of the season, week 12, we can look back and kind of see where we're at.
That's a cautionary tale for us here locally because JJ looked really good in a very brief opportunity. We got to see him, and in our minds, we're going to take that brief preseason look, and we're really extrapolating that into quarterback of the future. And, it's a cautionary tale that we really are not going to know what we've got in JJ until next year, and it's pretty dangerous to just go, well, we loved what we saw in 2 quarters of work.
Yeah.
While Sam Darnold is playing the best football of his career.
Right.
Right? You can look at all the trials that he's had, from Carolina to obviously the Jets. And I think it's such a blessing in disguise, for the organization. One, for Sam to be the starter and not have JJ throw a bad pass and someone's screaming McCarthy's name in the stadium, right?
Right.
And obviously you never want JJ to get hurt, clearly. But now he's got an opportunity to continue to get better, but learn the system and really get it. So that now he knows how everything goes, and when it's his time to go out there and pull the strings, he can do it at a high level. But Sam Darnold is playing elite level football. Let's not forget that.
Lastly, I had the honor of joining Tanner's podcast. It's called The Authentic Walk, right?
Yep, Authentic Walk Pod.
Authentic Walk Pod. And what are you looking to accomplish with this? And tell us about your co-hosts and stuff like that.
Yeah, for real. So it's hosted by me and Deventry Jordan, who's the owner of Game Face Training here in St. Louis Park.
Yep.
They also train people in Boca Raton, Florida, do a lot of pre-draft with the NBA and the NFL Combine. Essentially what it is, it's just allowing God and others to see the real you. And we talk all things sport, life, faith. I don't really care how much it grows. I felt like it was something God was calling me to. Let's just have authentic conversations.
Yeah.
You were gracious enough to come on, and we had an awesome conversation.
Good.
So it's just about holding a place to have authentic talks where you can take the mask off and just be yourself and talk about the things that you struggle with and the things that you want to get better at.
Amen. And you can learn more about that at T_Morg, the number 2. Appreciate you greatly.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Tanner Morgan, ladies and gentlemen. Tanner Morgan, one of the great quarterbacks in the history of Ski-U-Mah. Tanner Morgan, Ski-U-Mah. Vikes Bites around the corner on FM 100.3 KFAN. You got some Vikes Bites. Eric Nordquist, Mad Producer at Mad Producer 1 via Twitter. He's back at the 651 Carpets Plus Studios. He has Vikes Bites, and they are provided by.
Indeed, good morning. And Vikes Bites are provided by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Matt and everybody with Thousand Hills actually got to see them yesterday, and it's a Clearwater, Minnesota company. They do amazing work. You can shop online, thousandhillslifetimegraze.com, or you can go to your local Coburn's co-ops, and then you just had Tanner Morgan on. Thousand Hills is a proud sponsor and supporter of Gophers Athletics, so they keep those local athletes, keeping them local. Let's start with, we're going to start with Justin Jefferson. I found some audio here. He was addressing the media, talking about, okay, this quad injury, what is this like? What is it going to mean on Sunday? But I found this interesting when he was asked about his former LSU teammate, Derek Stingley Jr. Would he be following him around on the field on Sunday?
Whatever happens, happens. We're never really prepared to get one specific thing. We're prepared to get, whatever comes at us. We're still expecting the double. We're still expecting the things normal teams do against us. Of course, if they play man-to-man, that's something we always love and have plays against that as well. So, we're excited for the scheme and the plays that we have. We just got to go out there, execute them, keep the ball in our hands, and go out there and have fun doing it.
So that's JJ. I know Derek Stingley Jr., a high-end draft pick a few years ago out of LSU. I haven't actually followed him game by game since then, but JJ versus what ultimately will be in some form or fashion the combo of the rookie Lassiter on one end, Stingley on the other. How do you see this playing out, Mr. Charchian?
Well, first, if Stingley Jr. tracks Jefferson in one-on-one fashion, it'll be the first to do it in Justin's career.
Right.
So I think it's a high probability he won't, but that was a good bite.
That is a good bite. It is of note, we've now a couple of times mentioned this other cornerback they've got, Kamari Lassiter. He's 2 games into his NFL career. He's been awesome. He's allowed 3 of 10 passes to be completed for a total of 28 yards in his coverage so far, and he's got an interception.
And we're not trying to make Sam Darnold sound like an MVP, but Caleb and Anthony Richardson are, it's not a case study against those two is what I'm saying.
Yeah, fair to say. Very, very fair point. What'll be interesting to see is, has Jalen Naylor earned enough respect now that you're going to have to really start defensively paying attention to Jalen Nailor and providing him with enough coverage that Naylor's not going to keep getting wide open on these passes, because teams have been working so hard to make sure Justin Jefferson doesn't beat them that Naylor's springing free. And now I think you're going to have to play Jefferson just a little bit more fairly, because Naylor's proven requisite of the starting job. And I fully expect him to go again. Do not expect Addison in this game. At this point, I'm just hoping Addison comes back for the bye. I mean, maybe they'd end up sitting him through the whole bye. I hope it doesn't come to that. But this, JJ does not get single man coverage often. Probably not going to happen here. Stingley is their best coverage guy.
Yeah,
very fast. Daryl Stingley.
Here's how fast O'Connell's playing with these play calls situationally in games. So, because of no Addison, then Jefferson goes down.
Yeah.
So, like we talked about earlier with the Naylor 3rd and 8, big third down late in the game, Trent Sherfield Sr., Johnny Munt, slot left. Then you have Brandon Powell, Jalen Naylor, C.J. Ham. All right. Aaron Jones got himself a little slow, too. And it's a big pass protection down. So at this stage of the equation, you're going to have Ham in before Ty Chandler on a play like that as Ty continues to learn. But here's just how dialed in the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings is right now. Brandon Powell had 2 catches in the Niners game. They both amounted in first downs. Jalen Naylor has 4 catches this year, period. 2 of them touchdowns, the other 2 first downs.
Wow.
This is
impact spots.
It impacts spots. Nordo?
Vikes Bites. Thank you, Thousand Hills. Charge, what does it mean if Joe Mixon doesn't play this weekend? It could be Cam Akers, a Gunga Bawale. But how does this maybe also impact the Tank Dell inclusion for the Texans offense?
Well, I think maybe two different conversations. Tank Dell feels like the odd man out because he's really had very little productivity, but he's actually run the same number of routes that they've given to Nico Collins and to Stephon Diggs. And Diggs is running really, really shallow stuff. His average catches, average targets like 6 yards downfield.
Wow.
Tank Dell is getting deeper, and you just feel like pretty soon Tank Dell's numbers is going to get called on.
Yeah.
He's on the field too much. He's too good of a player. Looked fantastic for the half season he was healthy last year. And you're going to have to account for him. Tank Dell runs on the outside. Diggs is running not entirely. He's running mostly from the slot. It's going to be Gilmore and Griffin primarily on Tank Dell. And I'm telling you, do not sleep on Tank Dell.
No.
This kid is really good. And just because he hasn't filled box scores yet doesn't mean that he's not going to be impactful in this game.
Now, with Tank Dell, he was a running back at one point of his run. Now, he finished at Houston, but we got like an Abilene Christian in there. He just bounced all over the place. But if Mixon and Pierce are both down, you're not playing Cam Akers all game.
I don't think so either.
You just can't off the Achilles and at this stage of his career. Tank Dell running the ball like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Wow.
That would be from all over the place.
Yeah.
So I just, just remember I said that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if they're down those 2 backs, they ain't running Nico Collins. You don't run Diggs. You're not going to run Dalton Schultz. You're not going to run Cade Stover. Xavier Hutchinson, I guess they can run a little.
Agumbawale, Dare.
Right,
yes.
Yeah, but I mean, he's
a third down pass catching guy. He's
so just keep that in mind with Tank Dell.
Now, I think that's absolutely true. Let's just mention, and I know listeners are very familiar with Cam Akers' story, but it's worth reiterating. He got the Achilles injury. History of NFL. Running backs do not come back from the Achilles injury.
Right.
It is, look at, the horrible situation that unfolded with Mo Ibrahim, right? It is just a destructive injury to everything that running backs need to do. But Cam Akers managed to come back. Then, tragically, suffers Achilles injury in the other one.
Unbelievable.
And the fact that he's back this year again.
Yes.
And I watched him in the preseason.
Kicking butt.
He looked great.
I know.
And then he got some run last week when Mixon got hurt. Looked good again. I'm like, dude is defying everything we knew about running backs and Achilles injuries. Really happy for Cam Akers. He's had some cryptic words, by the way, about the Vikings this week when asked about why he went from the Vikings to the Texans. And he kind of played it right down the middle. He just said, like, there were things that went into the decision. Can't really talk about it, but I went to the best place for me. I don't know what that means entirely, but I'm happy for Cam Akers that he's found himself into a spot where he can be a meaningful contributor and may very well end up getting some real minutes in this Vikings game.
Vikes Bites, flashlight, green light, Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites! Hey, Charch, what impresses you most about C.J. Stroud into his second year, full season last year, now through 2 into 2024?
Lack of mistakes. What he does, the 5 interceptions last year, the fact that he does not give away games. And, and he walked into a Texans team that had the second worst as last year, the second worst record in the NFL. He was surrounded by what was believed at the time to be very little talent. And all he did was power himself to the Rookie of the Year award and power Houston from fourth place in the division to winning the division. And he did because he didn't give away games. And then he could also spring big plays. Turns out, we knew he had a big arm, and we knew he was going to have some downfield passing. His ability to connect on big plays with Nico Collins in particular was fantastic. So he wasn't giving games away, and then he was daggering with 2 and 3 big plays a game that were game changers, and that ended up being a recipe for tremendous success for him, and that has been the case as well through the 2 wins that Houston has had so far. And Nico Collins, absolute beast, and I think that's going to be one of the big challenges here for the Vikings is to try to force him into making some throws he doesn't want to make and try to contain the big plays.
Vikes Bites, a last one for you. Which of the playing their old team tandems do you prefer to be on the right side of? Daniil and Stefan playing their former squad here in Minnesota, or Jonathan Grenard and Blake Cashman, now our guys, playing their former team?
Good question.
I mean, it sounds absurd on its face. Jonathan Grenard has 12 quarterback pressures, 6 most among all defenders at all positions. I don't think did anybody see that coming? PA, did you see Jonathan Grenard?
He had 12.5 sacks last year.
Yeah.
So therefore, I mean, that's what he's supposed to do, but the pressures, they want sacks, but the pressures lead to so much. I mean, Caleb Williams, according to, I think it's Next Gen Stats, was pressured 36 times.
Oh, jeez.
Against the Texans.
Really?
Daniil Hunter had 12 and a sack and a half. 12 I mean, it's crazy.
Those are crazy numbers.
Those are Vikes Bites. Thank you very much, Nordo. The fantasy feast portion of the equation transpires around the corner. From Buffalo Wild Wings Champlin, we're having a funky good time on KFAN. What do you do with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? With this Tua stuff?
Yeah, Skylar Thompson's your new quarterback, Paul. Now, we've gotten looks at Skylar Thompson a lot, including that Viking game a couple of years ago, because Tua keeps getting knocked out of games, and Skylar Thompson's got to come in, usually cold off the bench.
Right.
So this situation now will be a little bit different because they know he's their starting quarterback all week long. They can install an offense for him, not for Tua. Skylar's got a big arm. He can throw downfield and he can throw hard. He's also, as often is the case with these kinds of guys, he's really inaccurate. And so I think there are going to be some deep ball connections like we're used to seeing from Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Waddle's the guy in the limited action we've seen. Waddle's the guy who really gets hurt with Skylar Thompson in the game. In the 5 games that Skylar Thompson has played with 10 or more passes, Jalen Waddle drops all the way down to an average of wide receiver 41 in fantasy football, while Tyreek Hill has managed to maintain a relatively decent number.
See, I would think I would think he would be the one that initially would take the biggest hit, because I'm stacking 7 or 8 around the line of scrimmage to slow that monster until this kid shows me he can throw it on time.
Yep, and I think the other side of that is I think they just will run more, because I don't think they want Skylar Thompson throwing 38 passes in a game. So Mostert might come back this week. We're probably going to see a little extra. We'll see extra attention with Mostert. Achan's going to run more, maybe a lot. I mean, our thinking on Achan has always been constantly hurt. You really have to limit his carries.
Yep.
That last game, 10 days ago, he came in on a bum ankle, and they ran him hard. So, the thinking is Achan's going to get a lot of carries, but you're right, Paul, defensively, the way I would approach the Dolphins is make Skylar Thompson beat me.
From a fantasy standpoint, I'm taking a leap here thinking that there aren't really any distinguished quarterbacks through two who you're like, oh, yeah, these 5 right here, they're just tearing it up every single week, even though it's like Derek in this fantasy league, and he's texting you all the time for that. I apologize.
I love that.
Okay.
And Derek gets to do that.
We were yesterday, Wednesday, when he was working, I went out there and sit with him. We were talking about Garrett Wilson and Sam Laporta.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you use Laporta and mostly Wilson every single week, okay? And it will, in the cyclical nature of it, it'll come around. Well, with some quarterbacks, that's going to be the case, but here's the point. Is Sam Darnold at this stage, 2 touchdowns and a pick, we're going for 270-ish or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, is he like an every week starter?
Well, he's fringe, yes. What Sam doesn't give you is the rushing.
Yep.
And, we love to see that. Get this as an example of just how important.
The rushing touchdowns, because he's run for 3 or 4 first.
Yeah, he can scramble, right? Yeah, he's chipping in, 20 scrambling yards. Jaden Daniels, to illustrate how important the rushing is, Jaden Daniels is the 4th highest scoring fantasy quarterback. He's thrown no touchdowns.
Oh, wow.
To the point you raised earlier.
Jeez.
I know. It's just the rushing is just so pivotal right now. This week, because of the respect I have for this Houston defense, I got Sam Darnold at quarterback 16. Last week I had him at quarterback 13. So he's right in that fringe in most typically sized leagues where he's the guy, he's a guy you can start. And I just think this particular matchup is one that worries me.
Aragoni, BA's a sharp. Wouldn't you agree?
He is.
Okay, he's a sharp.
Right.
We'll just leave it like that. So I'm looking through my Mad Hatters League yesterday, last night at CBY, and I see that he's starting Andy Dalton at quarterback. And I'm like, damn, it's like, okay. And then, so then for you, Andy Dalton, is he bringing, or will he bring relevance to Carolina's passing game?
I know the obvious answer is no to Andy Dalton, but I'm actually optimistic, Paul. And here's why. Dave Canales has resurrected the career of guys just like Andy Dalton.
Like Baker?
Like Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith.
Yeah.
Veterans who have been in systems for a long time, castaways from multiple teams, and this is what he's been able to do. Dave Canales has worked his magic with these guys. Not Bryce Young through 2 games, right? Dave Canales has not had a rookie, a young player that he's been able to work with and have better success with. Now, interestingly, we saw Andy Dalton 1 game last year. 1 Panthers game.
Yeah.
Different coaching staff, but 1 game.
Yeah.
He threw 58 passes, 361 yards, and 2 touchdowns in that game.
Oh, geez.
Now, here he comes with the Raiders game coming up.
Yeah.
Raiders are the biggest favorite on the whole schedule this week. 7.5 point favorites. And the game plan is the game script's going to be a lot of passing, probably from Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
And I think just through sheer volume, he's going to be serviceable. Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson, even if it's all garbage time, end of game stuff, don't care.
Your guy, Tommy Tremble.
I'm not ready to go quite that far down the depth chart yet.
Wesley Walls.
I don't think we're quite there. Greg Olsen, not going to be a factor, I think, in this game.
That's a good one.
But yeah, so I think Dalton is going to just become a serviceable option who's not giving away games like Bryce Young was.
I think the Bears-Indianapolis game, from a fantasy standpoint, is very compelling.
Yeah.
Because, the Packers put up 260 on the ground in the first half.
Yes.
Against this Colts defense. I think DeForest Buckner's down, too.
He is. He went on IR.
Oh, wow. So that's good. That's good overall player, run stopper, pass rusher, inside whole thing. So, but okay, cool. I can't. Let's see what happens. Oh, DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, Rashawn Johnson, or whatever. Caleb can run a little, but he's generally running for his life at this stage of his career, as opposed to productive runs. So that's the first point. It's compelling. Like, can you trust the Bears' running game against this toothless Colts rush defense? And secondly, Is there a potential this week Caleb Williams busts out?
I think he gets markedly better. Caleb gets markedly better this week. You hit on the running game, which is a big thing. The Colts in week 1, Houston ran for like 250 on the Colts.
Yeah, Mixon at like 170.
Yeah, he had 170 by himself.
Yeah.
Then the Colts give up like 270 rushing yards to the Packers when they knew that the Packers were going to run all the time and they couldn't do anything about it.
Green Bay ran for like 160 in the first quarter. How's that happen?
Exactly. It was such a terrible defensive game plan against the Packers and Malik Willis. When you know Malik Willis doesn't throw downfield, you know Malik's gonna run in a couple of times. All you had to do is stack the line of scrimmage. Don't let Josh Jacobs beat you. Make Malik Willis make deep throws. And you win the game. They didn't do any of that. They went vanilla defense. Their cornerbacks are lining up 8 yards off of receivers. It was so dumb. Anyway, with the injury to DeForest Buckner, also starting cornerback Juju Brents is out. Leatu Latu is hurt and may not play in this game.
Wow.
I think we're going to see enough help from the Bears offensive line, which has been bad. I think that line finally puts Caleb into a spot to play better. And I think we're going to see an uptick for him. Should have all of his receivers back. Keenan Allen back. Roma Dunze back. DJ Moore's always been healthy. I feel like this Colts defense is very vulnerable. They're 0-2 with some bad plays so far. So yeah, I think Caleb starts to put it together.
Do you like Anthony Richardson as a fantasy quarterback?
I'm glad you asked. As a fantasy quarterback, I do because the running is great.
Is it still great?
It is. Well, it's good. It's good, not great. But he has the ability to break open like
threw
any
3
play.
picks last week.
Paul, week 1, he completed 9 passes. Week 2, he threw 3 picks.
Hey.
I mean, look, as a passer, Anthony Richardson still got a long way to go to show that he's an NFL-capable passer.
Super inaccurate.
And they're unleashing these long bombs from him all the time.
Yeah, I have
and
Alec
sometimes
Pierce.
they hit. Right, Alec Pierce. Sometimes they hit. When they don't, his passing is not helping the Colts right now. And he's got to get better. He's only like 7 starts into his NFL career. So, who knows how this thing's going to go. Nobody's making any final decisions right now, but the passing's got to get better.
Okay, lastly, the demise of Amari Cooper is not being greatly exaggerated. What's happening there?
Well, first, everybody always blames universal villain Deshaun Watson and everything that goes around with that offense.
Yeah.
But the problem is way more so Amari Cooper has a career 8% drop rate right now, 38% drop rate.
In fantasy leagues or with passes?
No, I mean passes coming his way. He's dropped 38% of the passes that have been thrown to him. You can't do that. He's dropped more balls than
a hernia surgeon.
Thank you very much.
Is that what it was?
A hernia specialist, I say. But, surgeon works very well.
Long Morris, though, I got all your out.
Absolutely. Cooper and some of the drops have been big, open, downfield touchdown plays that he's dropped. So while we don't love Watson, Cooper's got to get better, start reeling in some of these. And dude's a pro. He's an absolute pro. He's a great player. I think it comes around here. I don't think the game has totally passed him by. So I think he reverses course, and Amari Cooper probably remains very fantasy startable the rest of the way.
All right, that's the Fantasy Feast, courtesy of the identity of fantasy football, Mr. Paul Charchian. And when we return, not Alec Pierce, but Alec Lewis from The Athletic joins us. And we go hardcore Vikings, Texans, and Minnesota Vikings football. From Buffalo Wild Wings Champlin, you're listening to KFAN.